Welcome to Taking Care of Business on News Talk 1180 KERN for the best in Saturday Talk Radio at 1 o'clock. And on 1230 KGEO at 10 o'clock Saturday. And for the best in Wednesday Talk Radio on 1410 KERI. And now, Clay, on 1000 KKIM in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Your host is Clay Koerner, and I'm Marty Pay. And behind the big board is the man, the legend, Greg Held. Hey, Clay, we had a great show last week with Rabbi Gantz and Bill Glenn.
We had a great show.
Well,
you had a great show. I was traveling.
I thought you were asleep in the corner.
No, I was traveling.
That's what I kept on saying on the air.
That was a dummy in the corner. That wasn't me.
Oh, wrong dummy.
Wrong dummy.
Thank you for the setup line.
No, I had to go to
that.
Washington, D.C., and then I was off to Phoenix. I went to Las Vegas, Sacramento, and then back in Bakersfield.
Well, I can see Vegas, but why Washington and Sacramento?
Yeah, I was gambling there, too.
Oh, yeah, we're gambling. We're all gambling in Washington and Sacramento. We have to have both of those guests back on when you're here because I think, especially Bill Glenn, I think the two of you would really, really get along. Today we've got a great show. In the second half, we've got one of my favorite guests, author, talk show host, economist, Professor Walter Williams. But now in studio we have from ADAKC, Alzheimer's Disease Association of Kern County, we've got Robin, I'm going to mispronounce this,
McGarrah.
I knew I was going to mispronounce it. And an old friend of ours, Katie Eucce.
Good morning. Afternoon.
Did I get it right?
You sure did.
Oh, there we go.
You have to understand when Marty reintroduces you, he'll get it wrong again. This is historically what he does.
No one, very seldom anyone gets my name right. So I'm used to it. You're great. Thank you.
How about that, huh?
1 out of 2. That's pretty. 50%, man.
Hey, if I were a baseball player, I'd be $1 million man with that.
That's right.
They're also going to talk about a special fundraiser they have in October. Welcome to Taking Care of Business.
Thank you for having us.
It's our pleasure. So let's start with the basics, okay? What is Alzheimer's?
Alzheimer's, the most basic explanation that I can give is it is plaque in the brain. And so if you think of it like cholesterol in your body, the same thing occurs in the brain. And so over time, as more plaque builds up, parts of the brain begin to shut down. And ultimately, when the brain starts to shut down, functions shut down. And so someone with Alzheimer's versus someone that is suffering from dementia, which is memory loss, someone with Alzheimer's will actually lose functionality, including things like walking, talking, eating, the ability to do these things, and over time it will lead to death.
But dementia causes the same thing, doesn't it? Is it just caused by something different? Or?
So if you think of Alzheimer's and dementia, you can think of dementia as a symptom of Alzheimer's. So it's kind of like the fever, and Alzheimer's can be what is causing the fever. And so dementia can be caused by multiple different things. You can have somebody who's been in a car accident and has dementia, stroke, Parkinson's, all these sorts of different things cause dementia, and we actually can help anyone who's suffering from any type of memory loss.
You know, it's interesting. I was just in Canada visiting my dad, and he has, I guess it's the first or second stage, probably the second stage of Alzheimer's, where he didn't recognize me. I was sitting there with him one morning, and I said, "You don't really know who I am, do you?" And he said, "Well, I'm not really sure." So we talked a little bit, told him what I did for a living, told him he was on the show early in the year, and he said, "How'd I do?" I said, "Pretty good." And, you know, I think my experience with people in long-term care situations is you have to join them where they are, not try to bring them back to your reality, because they can no longer join you in your reality. So as long as I met him where he was, it was great, but I didn't try to pull him out. Does that make sense?
That's an excellent approach. We call that Alzheimer's world. We've borrowed that expression actually from Bob DeMarco, who writes wonderful pieces in the Alzheimer's reading room, and we subscribe, obviously, and we pass that information along to our caregivers, because Alzheimer's world, it's like an alter universe, and somebody suffering with dementia or Alzheimer's, they really do live in a completely different world. They could go outside, and to them, the sky might be purple. So just go with it.
Right. Yeah, you have to join him in their world. It was interesting. Some of the symptoms that I saw with him were things that are really textbook, like he felt very guilty and he was very sorry for, things that he had no idea what he was sorry for. But he just looked at me and said, "Son, I'm sorry for things that I may have done," and blah, blah, blah. And he had a problem in crowds. They had a little party for us, kind of a wedding party. I had just gotten married a few weeks earlier. And as soon as 5 or 6 people more gathered, he just got really nervous because he didn't know people that he should have known. and it was a very stressful situation for him. Is that fairly normal?
Most definitely. I would say that frustration is a major part of somebody suffering with Alzheimer's, especially in those early stages, because I think people have the misconception of maybe an incapacitated state, and it's very much the opposite of that. People suffering with Alzheimer's and dementia, they know something's wrong with them. They just can't quite put their finger on it, and that is just maddening for them to know and feel that feeling of, like you said, I'm supposed to know these people. I know I'm supposed to know these people, but for some reason, I just can't place it in my memory. And you and I everyone experiences this whenever you're trying to remember something and it's on the tip of your tongue, you just can't quite get it out. So that's why I'm the sticky note queen, because I sometimes joke that I have dementia.
Right. Well, I have the same feeling about Clay, but I'm not too sure if it's Alzheimer's or dementia.
I was wondering which one of us was going to roll with the bar first.
I figured if I didn't do it, you were going to.
Well, and the other thing you need to think about is how many times have we been out and about and someone's walked up to us, oh, hi, how are you? You know, and you're like, oh, I know this person, but where do I know them from?
All the time.
And there is a state of confusion for us in our state, so you can imagine what it's like for them, because they know that they're supposed to know. They have the feeling, I know this person, I feel that connection. Just like with you, I'm sure your dad knew that he loved you, and he was important to you. You were important to him, but he wasn't sure about who or why, and he couldn't quite put the puzzle pieces together. So that's that part that doesn't stick. He has the feeling, he just doesn't know what to do with it, and that's confusing for him.
Sure.
It's the long term that they remember, it's the short term that they can't quite put together.
And also, Marty, another thing is an expression that we use is the heart remembers what the mind forgets. His heart is saying something, I know this person, I love this person, but I don't know why. So we like to use that expression.
That's interesting.
It's like you and me, Marty.
Definitely.
The heart saying you love me, you know.
I guess it must be the heart, because
it has to be.
And then your mind wants to forget.
Well, we're getting in the right place here.
As soon as we leave the studio.
Hey, I've got a question.
Well, let me reintroduce our guests, then you can. Our guests in studio, Robin and Kate from ADAKC.
I'm always curious about people behind the situation. And so how did you guys get into this? And what brought you into this organization and this career?
For me, my uncle had Alzheimer's, and so did my grandfather. And before I came to the Alzheimer's, which was 7 years ago, I worked in substance abuse, and I didn't have a sense of feeling like I was getting anything in return and really helping people. It was kind of like a revolving door. I just happened to come upon this job through my husband and an acquaintance, which was a customer of his. They were looking for somebody. I applied, and I think sometimes God works in mysterious ways, and doors open when a window closes. So I feel a difference that I make in people's day every day, not only me, but my whole team. And it's a great feeling to go to bed at night and know that you've helped not just one person, but a whole family. So I love what we do. It's pretty nice.
For me, I've volunteered with ADAKC for the last 7 years, and my mom asked me if I would come fill in for a few months since I didn't have a job, quote unquote. And that's because I've been a real estate broker for many years, and no one ever considers that a real job. So I agreed to fill in for a couple of months, and here I am over a year later still there. And it is very fulfilling. What we do is important work, and we get to help so many different people. We're not just the loved ones who are at our center in the adult day service program, but the caregivers, and to see the relief that they have whenever we are able to take that burden from them. That's what we're all about.
Where does the money come from, and how do you get the money for supporting the organization?
A lot of what we do is I have a grant writer that helps with grants, so we do apply for quite a few grants out there in the community. I used to do that myself, but it's becoming so taxing and such a need for the funding. The other grant that we have is called a Title III grant. It's a caregiver's grant. It's federally funded and county backfilled money. And then fundraising. Boy, we do a lot of fundraising to help our community. And this is all about our community. We are local. All of our dollars that we raise and that we get are local dollars, and they stay locally, and they help our community.
Well, that's a great segue. When we come back from the break, let's talk about a fundraiser that you've got coming up in October.
Perfect.
We'll be back in a moment on 1180 KERN.